I'm Sensei Alex Kakuyo, North American contributor for Buddhist Global. Thanks for joining me for this episode of The Ordinary Buddhist. The title of today's Dharma talk is Buddha is in the Details. Before we get into that, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you'll be notified when I post talks in the future. If you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, that'd be great too. One thing that can be quite shocking to new students in a Buddhist temple is how exacting everything has to be. Buddha must be centered perfectly on the altar. The incense must be pointing in the correct direction before we light it. And when we sweep the floor, there's a very specific technique we're expected to use. What's the big deal? Who cares if Buddha is a little bit off center, or if we sweep the floor a little bit differently than the ancestors did when they were sweeping the temple hundreds or thousands of years ago? Well, the reason life in a Buddhist temple is so detail-oriented is because it is often in the small details of life that we have the best opportunities to end suffering for ourselves and others. Yes, it may not seem like a big deal if the Buddha is slightly off-center or if the floor isn't perfectly clean, but you can imagine if someone sits down on their cushion to meditate, it could be distracting if there's a pile of dust on the floor. Or if they begin their chanting exercises and notice that the Buddha is a little bit off-kilter, they could be distracted, unable to focus on the words that they are reciting. By paying close attention to these details in the Buddhist temple, we make life easier for people. We make the path simpler for them to walk, thus ending suffering both for ourselves and others. However, this does not just stop in the temple. Attention to detail is an important part of Buddhist practice outside the temple as well. In our daily lives, it is often the small, seemingly insignificant things we do that have the biggest impact on the people around us. Remembering to put the toilet seat down after we use it. Remembering to wash our dishes and not leave them in the sink. Taking out the trash when it's full. Bringing a loved one a cup of coffee or tea if they've had a long night. These things are small, seemingly insignificant details, but it is in the small, insignificant details that we most readily find the Buddha. Because when we do these small things consistently, every day, even though they don't require a ton of extra effort on our part, they can help others avoid tremendous amounts of suffering. And we benefit as well because we get the satisfaction and the joy that comes from a job well done. So as we go about our daily lives, whether it's in or outside of the Buddhist temple, let's remember that Buddha is always in the details. Amitabha.